What would you do if your freedom was sold for just $2, yet your spirit refused to break? This is the moment one young woman's entire world shifts. But what happens next is nothing like what anyone expects. Thank you so much for watching and for all your comments. Let me know at the end if you liked the story, and where you're watching from and why you're following this. The scorching Texas sun beat down mercilessly on the small trading post, where 17-year-old Elizabeth Harmon stood on the crude wooden platform. Her once pristine blue dress was now torn and dirty after 3 days of captivity following the raid on her family's homestead. The Comanche war party had killed her father and taken her mother elsewhere. Now she was being auctioned off to the highest bidder like cattle. $2 for the white girl, called out a tall Comanche warrior from the back of the crowd. His voice was deep and commanding, his English surprisingly clear. The crowd of traders, trappers, and Native Americans turned to look at the speaker. He sat straight-backed on a magnificent painted horse, his black hair flowing past his shoulders. His face bore the markings of a respected warrior, and the feathers in his hair indicated his status. $2? That's all? The auctioneer, a greasy-haired man with tobacco-stained teeth, spat on the ground. This here's a fine specimen, Strong Eagle, worth at least 20. Elizabeth trembled with rage and fear. Her wrists were bound with rough rope that cut into her skin. I am not property to be sold, she said through gritted teeth. My father was a respected doctor in Boston. When people find out what you've done, ain't nobody gonna find out, missy, the auctioneer laughed. You're in Comanche territory now. The warrior called Strong Eagle dismounted and approached the platform. He was taller than most of the other men present, his muscular frame evident beneath the buckskin shirt he wore. His dark eyes met Elizabeth's defiant blue ones. $2, he repeated firmly. No one else will bid. She has spirit that must be broken. He switched to Comanche, speaking to the other warriors present, who nodded in agreement. Elizabeth stiffened. You'll regret this, she hissed at Strong Eagle. I won't obey. I'll escape at the first opportunity. Strong Eagle's expression remained impassive. $2, he said once more. The auctioneer looked around, but no one else seemed interested in bidding. The girl was too defiant, too educated to make a good servant or wife by frontier standards. Sold to Strong Eagle for $2, the auctioneer finally declared, taking the coins from the Comanche warrior's outstretched hand. Elizabeth was roughly pulled from the platform, and her bound wrists were tied to Strong Eagle's horse. I won't go with you, she protested, digging her heels into the dirt. You have no choice, Elizabeth Harmon, Strong Eagle replied, surprising her by using her name. How do you know my name? She demanded. I know many things about you, he answered cryptically. Now walk or be dragged. The choice is yours. With no real alternative, Elizabeth began walking alongside the horse as Strong Eagle led them away from the trading post. The summer heat was suffocating, and dust kicked up with every step, coating her throat and making it difficult to breathe. After they were some distance from the post, Strong Eagle stopped and offered her a water skin. Drink, he ordered. Elizabeth hesitated, her throat parched but her pride still intact. I'd rather die of thirst than accept anything from you. That can be arranged, he replied coolly, but it would be a waste of $2. There was something in his tone, a hint of humor perhaps, that confused Elizabeth. She reluctantly took the water skin and drank. The water was warm but soothed her parched throat. Why did you buy me? What do you intend to do with me? Strong Eagle remounted his horse. You ask many questions for a captive, and you speak unusually good English for a savage, she retorted. His expression hardened. Careful with your words, Elizabeth Harmon. They may be the last ones you speak. They traveled in silence as the landscape changed from scattered trees to open plains. The sun began to set, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and reds. Despite her exhaustion, Elizabeth couldn't help but marvel at the wild beauty surrounding them. Strong Eagle finally stopped at a small creek. We camp here tonight, he announced, dismounting and untying Elizabeth from his horse. Where are you taking me? She asked, rubbing her sore wrists after he removed the bindings. To my people's camp, he answered, gathering wood for a fire. It is 2 days' ride from here. And then what? Will I be your slave? Your... She couldn't bring herself to say the word. Strong Eagle looked at her with an unreadable expression. You are under my protection now. That is all you need to know. Protection. Elizabeth laughed bitterly. You purchased me like livestock. Would you prefer I left you to the white trappers? He asked. They would not have been so respectful. Elizabeth fell silent, knowing he was right. She had seen the leering looks from the other men at the auction. As night fell, Strong Eagle built a small fire and prepared a simple meal of dried meat and berries. He offered some to Elizabeth, who reluctantly accepted. Her stomach had been growling for hours. Why did the Comanche attack our homestead? She asked after eating. We had no quarrel with your people. Your people have been encroaching on Comanche lands for years, Strong Eagle replied. Every new settlement pushes us further from our hunting grounds. My father was a doctor. He helped everyone who came to him, including Indians. Strong Eagle's expression softened slightly. Not all whites are the same, just as not all Comanche are the same. But in times of war, such distinctions are often forgotten. Elizabeth wrapped her arms around herself as the night grew colder. My mother. Do you know what happened to her? For the first time, Strong Eagle looked uncomfortable. She was taken by Chief Black Wolf's warriors. I do not know her fate. Tears stung Elizabeth's eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She would not show weakness in front of her captor. Strong Eagle silently offered her a blanket. After a moment's hesitation, she took it, wrapping it around her shoulders. Rest now, he said, moving to the other side of the fire. We have a long journey tomorrow. Elizabeth lay down, using her arm as a pillow, the hard ground uncomfortable beneath her. Despite her exhaustion, sleep eluded her as she stared up at the star-filled sky, wondering what fate awaited her among the Comanche. One thing was certain, she would find a way to escape and search for her mother no matter what it took. The second day of travel was more grueling than the first. The sun climbed higher in the cloudless sky, and the terrain became increasingly rugged. Elizabeth's feet, unused to such long treks, were blistered and bleeding through her thin leather shoes, but she refused to complain, matching Strong Eagle's pace with stubborn determination. Your people build weak shoes, Strong Eagle commented, noticing her limping stride. Comanche moccasins would serve you better. I don't want anything Comanche, Elizabeth retorted, though her feet screamed in protest with each step. Strong Eagle shrugged. Pride will not heal your wounds. He stopped his horse suddenly, listening. His body tensed as he scanned the horizon. What is it? Elizabeth asked, her heart racing. Kiowa, he whispered. Our enemies. And yours too now. He quickly untied her bonds and pulled her up onto his horse, settling her in front of him. If we are attacked, do exactly as I say. Elizabeth nodded, too frightened to argue. She could feel the strong beat of his heart against her back as they raced across the plains, his arm firmly around her waist to keep her from falling. They rode hard for nearly an hour before Strong Eagle finally slowed the horse to a walk. We have outrun them, he said, his breath warm against her ear. But we must be careful. This is disputed territory. Why didn't you leave me? Elizabeth asked suddenly. I would have slowed you down on foot. The Kiowa might have captured me instead. You are my responsibility now, he answered simply. Besides, $2 is a high price to pay for a stubborn white girl only to abandon her to the Kiowa. There was definitely humor in his voice this time, and Elizabeth found herself fighting the urge to smile. Instead, she stiffened in his grasp. I am not your responsibility. I am your prisoner. Is there a difference? He guided the horse toward a small outcropping of rocks that provided some shade. Of course there is, she insisted. A responsibility is something you choose. I did not choose to be here. Strong Eagle dismounted and helped her down. Neither did I choose for white settlers to take our lands. Yet here we are. His words struck a chord with Elizabeth. She had never considered the plight of the Native Americans before her capture. Her father had spoken of them with respect, but most settlers viewed them as obstacles to progress, savages to be removed. My father believed all men should be treated with dignity, she said quietly. He wouldn't have approved of taking your lands. Strong Eagle studied her face carefully. Your father sounds like an unusual man. He was. He taught me to read and write, to think for myself. He wanted me to attend university someday, though my mother thought it improper for a woman. Among my people, women have important roles. They own the teepees and everything in them. Their counsel is valued. Elizabeth was surprised. Really? I thought Indian women were just servants to their husbands. Strong Eagle shook his head. That is the white man's way, not ours. He offered her the water skin again, which she took without protest this time. Rest here. We still have far to travel. They sat in silence for a while, the desert heat shimmering around them. Elizabeth studied her captor covertly. His profile was strong, his eyes alert as he surveyed their surroundings. Despite herself, she was impressed by his competence, his knowledge of the land. "Why do you speak English so well?" she finally asked. Strong Eagle was quiet for so long that Elizabeth thought he might not answer. "I spent 2 winters at a mission school when I was a boy," he eventually said, "before I escaped and returned to my people." "Escaped? Were you a prisoner there?" His jaw tightened. "The white missionaries called it education. They cut my hair, beat me when I spoke my language, tried to erase everything Comanche about me." Elizabeth was shocked. "That's terrible. I had no idea." "There is much your people do not know about mine," he replied, "or choose not to know." Before Elizabeth could respond, Strong Eagle stood abruptly. "We must continue. The Comanche camp is still a day's ride away." As they rode through the afternoon, Elizabeth's thoughts were in turmoil. Everything she had believed about the savage Comanche was being challenged by the man who held her captive. He was intelligent, articulate, and so far had treated her with more respect than many white men would have in similar circumstances. When they made camp that evening beside a small stream, Elizabeth found herself less afraid than she had been the previous night. She watched as Strong Eagle skillfully built a fire and prepared their simple meal. "You still plan to escape?" he said, not a question but a statement of fact. Elizabeth looked up, startled. "Wouldn't you, in my position?" "Yes," he admitted. "But where would you go? This territory is dangerous for a lone white woman. Kiowa, rattlesnakes, wolves, lack of water, any of these could kill you before you reached a settlement." "I have to find my mother," Elizabeth said firmly. "I can't abandon her." Strong Eagle's expression softened. "Your loyalty to your family is honorable." He hesitated, then added, "I will make inquiries about your mother when we reach the camp. If she is alive, perhaps something can be arranged." Elizabeth stared at him in disbelief. "Why would you help me? I told you you are under my protection now. But I'm just a captive you bought for $2. Strong Eagle met her gaze steadily. "Perhaps I saw something worth more than $2 standing on that auction platform." The unexpected compliment brought warmth to Elizabeth's cheeks. She looked away, confused by her reaction. This man was her enemy, her captor. She shouldn't care what he thought of her. "What will happen to me at your camp?" she asked, changing the subject. "You will live in my family's teepee. My mother and sisters will teach you our ways. And if I refuse to learn?" Strong Eagle shrugged. "Then your life will be more difficult than it needs to be." He studied her for a moment. "You are stubborn, Elizabeth Harmon, but so am I. In time, we will see which of us is more so." That night, as Elizabeth lay beneath her blanket watching the stars, she found herself thinking less about escape and more about the complex man who had purchased her for $2. Strong Eagle was nothing like the bloodthirsty savage she had expected. There was a depth to him, an intelligence and honor that confused her. And though she was still determined to find her mother and return to her own world, she had to admit she was curious about the Comanche way of life he had described. With these conflicting thoughts swirling in her mind, Elizabeth finally drifted into an uneasy sleep, the sound of Strong Eagle's steady breathing across the fire, oddly comforting in the vast wilderness surrounding them. The Comanche camp came into view by midday of their 3rd day of travel. Elizabeth's heart raced as she saw the cluster of conical teepees spread across the valley, smoke rising from cook fires, horses grazing nearby, and people moving about their daily tasks. This would be her prison, perhaps for the remainder of her life. "My people," Strong Eagle said with evident pride, "the lords of the southern plains." As they approached the camp, children noticed them first, running alongside Strong Eagle's horse with curious glances at Elizabeth. Adults soon emerged from teepees, their expressions ranging from curiosity to outright hostility when they spotted the white woman. Strong Eagle spoke in rapid Comanche, his voice firm and authoritative. Whatever he said caused the crowd to step back, though their suspicious stares remained fixed on Elizabeth. An elderly woman with deeply lined features approached. Despite her age, she walked straight and proud, her dark eyes sharp as they assessed Elizabeth. "This is my mother, Morning Sky," Strong Eagle explained, dismounting and helping Elizabeth down from the horse. Elizabeth stood tall despite her exhaustion and fear, meeting the older woman's scrutinizing gaze. Morning Sky circled her slowly, saying something in Comanche that made some of the onlookers laugh. "What did she say?" Elizabeth whispered to Strong Eagle. "She said you are too skinny and pale, but your eyes show strength," he translated, a hint of amusement in his voice. "She approves." Morning Sky barked orders, and two younger women hurried forward. Strong Eagle explained they were his sisters, Swift Deer and Little Dove. They took Elizabeth by the arms and led her toward one of the larger teepees near the center of the camp. "Wait," Elizabeth called back to Strong Eagle. "What's happening?" "You need to be cleaned and given proper clothes," he replied. "My mother and sisters will help you. I must report to the council about my journey." Elizabeth wanted to protest, but she was already being hustled into the teepee. Inside, she was surprised by the spaciousness and comfort. Buffalo robes covered the ground, and beautifully decorated containers were arranged neatly around the perimeter. A fire burned in a central pit, the smoke rising through a hole at the top of the structure. The women efficiently stripped off Elizabeth's tattered dress despite her embarrassed protests. They guided her to sit while they heated water and used soft cloths to wash away the dust and grime of travel. Their gentle but thorough ministrations reminded Elizabeth of her mother, bringing unexpected tears to her eyes. Little Dove, the younger of Strong Eagle's sisters, noticed and patted Elizabeth's hand sympathetically, saying something in Comanche. "She says the first days are the hardest," translated an unexpected voice. Elizabeth turned to see an elderly white woman entering the teepee. Her hair was silver, but her blue eyes were bright and alert. She wore Comanche dress and moved with the ease of someone long accustomed to this life. "I'm Sarah Benton, or at least I was 40 years ago when the Comanche took me from my family's farm in Kentucky." You're white," Elizabeth exclaimed. Sarah smiled wryly. "Not anymore, not really. I've been Comanche longer than I was ever white." She sat beside Elizabeth. "Strong Eagle asked me to help you adjust. He thought having someone who speaks your language might ease the transition." "There is no transition," Elizabeth said firmly. "I won't be staying. I need to find my mother and return to civilization." Sarah's expression grew serious. "Child, I understand your feelings. I felt the same when I first came here. But the sooner you accept your new life, the easier it will be for you." "Did you ever try to escape?" Elizabeth asked. 3 times, Sarah admitted. "The third time Running Bear, my husband, tracked me for days. When he found me half dead from thirst, he didn't punish me as I expected. He simply asked if I was ready to come home." Her eyes grew distant with memory. "That's when I realized this had become my home, and these people, my family." Elizabeth shook her head stubbornly. "That won't happen to me." Sarah shrugged. "Perhaps not, but Strong Eagle has claimed you as his responsibility, which means you're protected. Not all captives are so fortunate." The women finished washing Elizabeth and presented her with soft buckskin clothing, a long dress decorated with intricate beadwork, fringed at the sleeves and hem, and comfortable moccasins that were a welcome relief for her blistered feet. "These are beautiful," Elizabeth admitted, running her fingers over the colorful beaded patterns. "Little Dove made them," Sarah explained. "She's been working on them since Strong Eagle sent word he was returning with a white woman." "He planned this?" Elizabeth asked, surprised. "Taking me was deliberate?" Sarah hesitated. "Strong Eagle is the son of a chief. His actions always have purpose, but it's not my place to explain his intentions." Before Elizabeth could press for more information, Morning Sky returned with a wooden bowl of stew. The rich aroma made Elizabeth's stomach growl, reminding her how little she had eaten during their journey. As she ate the hearty stew of buffalo meat and wild onions, Elizabeth observed the women going about their tasks. They worked efficiently together, speaking softly in Comanche, occasionally glancing her way. Despite being captors, their behavior seemed less hostile than curious. "What will be expected of me here?" Elizabeth finally asked Sarah. You'll work alongside the other women, cooking, gathering wood and water, preparing hides, making clothing. Morning Sky is a respected healer, so you'll likely assist her as well. Elizabeth thought of her father's medical practice, how he had taught her about herbs and treatments. Perhaps that knowledge would be valuable here. And Strong Eagle? What does he expect of me? She tried to keep her tone casual. Sarah gave her a knowing look. Strong Eagle is an important warrior, not yet married despite many offers. The fact that he claimed you has caused quite a stir in the camp. She patted Elizabeth's hand. But don't worry. He's a good man, honorable. He won't force anything upon you. That evening, Elizabeth sat outside the teepee watching the activity of the camp. Children played games, young men cared for horses, women prepared the evening meal. It was so different from her life in the settler community, yet there was a familiar rhythm to it. Families living their daily lives. Strong Eagle approached, looking different in his full Comanche dress. A beautifully tanned buckskin shirt adorned with porcupine quills, his hair decorated with eagle feathers denoting his status. He sat beside her, offering a wooden cup of water. You look more comfortable, he observed. Your sister's handiwork, Elizabeth replied. They've been kind, as has Sarah. Sarah has walked the path you now face. She can guide you. Elizabeth turned to face him directly. Why did you take me? Of all the captives from the raid, why me specifically? Strong Eagle was silent for a long moment, his gaze fixed on the distant mountains. The raid was led by Chief Black Wolf, not me. I followed to ensure it didn't become a massacre. He met her eyes. When I saw you defending your wounded father with his own rifle, I knew you had a warrior's heart. Elizabeth remembered that terrible moment, her father bleeding on the ground, her mother screaming, and Elizabeth herself grabbing her father's hunting rifle, determined to protect him despite never having fired a weapon before. He died anyway, she said softly. With honor, Strong Eagle replied. As for why I claimed you at the trading post, he paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. You remind me of someone I once knew, someone who also refused to be broken by circumstance. Who? Elizabeth asked. A shadow passed over his face. My wife. She died 2 winters ago, along with our unborn child. The unexpected revelation left Elizabeth speechless. This was not the heartless savage she had imagined when she was first captured. I'm sorry for your loss, she finally said, meaning it. Strong Eagle nodded in acknowledgement. Tomorrow you will begin learning our ways. It will not be easy for you. I told Sarah, and I'll tell you I won't be staying. Somehow I'll find my mother and return to my own people. Instead of anger, a faint smile touched Strong Eagle's lips. The warrior's heart I spoke of. He stood. Rest now, Elizabeth Harmon. Tomorrow comes soon enough. As he walked away, Elizabeth watched his retreating figure, confused by the conflicting emotions his presence stirred in her. He was her captor, yes, but also her protector. An enemy of her people, yet a man of evident honor and depth. That night, lying on soft buffalo robes in the teepee she now shared with Strong Eagle's family, Elizabeth realized the most dangerous threat to her determination to escape might not be the physical challenges of the wilderness, but the unexpected connections she was beginning to form with these people, especially with the warrior who had paid $2 for her freedom. 3 months had passed since Elizabeth's arrival at the Comanche camp. The scorching summer had given way to the golden hues of autumn, and with the changing season came changes in Elizabeth herself. Her once pale skin was now tanned from working outdoors, her hands toughened from daily tasks. She had gained strength and endurance, learning to ride bareback in the Comanche style and to gather medicinal plants with Morning Sky. To her own surprise, Elizabeth found herself adapting to life among the people she had once considered savages. Morning Sky had taken her under her wing, recognizing Elizabeth's knowledge of medicine from her father's teachings. Together, they treated ailments in the camp, creating a bridge between Western medical practices and traditional Comanche healing. Elizabeth sat by the stream, grinding herbs for a poultice, when Sarah joined her. You're becoming quite the Comanche woman, Sarah observed with a smile. Elizabeth looked up, returning the smile despite herself. Don't tell me you're going to say, I told you so. Sarah laughed. Would I do that? She sat beside Elizabeth, her aged hands still nimble as she helped with the herbs. But I have noticed you haven't tried to escape recently. Elizabeth's hands stilled. It was true. Her initial escape attempts had been thwarted by Strong Eagle, who seemed to anticipate her every move. Yet his punishments had been mild. Extra work, restrictions to the camp, never the harsh treatment she might have expected. I'm still planning to leave, Elizabeth insisted, though with less conviction than before. I need to find my mother. Sarah nodded. I understand. But have you considered what Strong Eagle told you last week? About the rumors of a white woman at the trading post? Hope had surged in Elizabeth when Strong Eagle had shared this news. He had promised to investigate further at the next opportunity, to determine if the woman might be Elizabeth's mother. If it is her, Elizabeth said quietly, I'll leave immediately. And if it isn't? Elizabeth had no answer. The truth was, her feelings about leaving had become increasingly complicated. She had formed bonds here, with Morning Sky, with the children who delighted in learning English words from her, even with Swift Deer and Little Dove, who had moved from suspicion to friendship. And then there was Strong Eagle. Their relationship had evolved from captor and captive to something neither of them had anticipated. He sought her company in the evenings, sharing stories of Comanche history, listening with genuine interest to her tales of life in Boston. He had even begun teaching her to shoot with a bow, laughing at her early clumsy attempts, but showing unmistakable pride when she finally hit the target. You're falling in love with him, Sarah said gently, reading Elizabeth's thoughts. That's absurd, Elizabeth protested, feeling her cheeks warm. He purchased me for $2, and yet he treats you not as property, but as an equal, Sarah pointed out. I've known Strong Eagle since he was a boy. I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you. Before Elizabeth could respond, a commotion erupted in the camp. Riders were approaching, Comanche warriors returning from a hunting expedition. At their head rode Strong Eagle, his commanding presence unmistakable even at a distance. Elizabeth found herself rising to her feet, her heart quickening at the sight of him. She had worried during the 5 days he'd been gone, though she'd tried to hide this concern from others. The hunting party had been successful, bringing back buffalo meat that would sustain the camp through the approaching winter. As the men dismounted, women and children gathered around, helping to unload the precious bounty. Strong Eagle's eyes found Elizabeth immediately. He handed his horse's reins to a younger warrior and walked directly toward her, his expression unusually serious. I must speak with you, he said without preamble. Elizabeth nodded, following him away from the bustling camp to the quiet spot by the stream where they often talked in the evenings. What is it? She asked, anxiety twisting in her stomach. Is it about my mother? Have you heard something? Strong Eagle met her gaze steadily. Yes, I spoke with traders at the river crossing. A white woman matching your mother's description was seen at Fort Belknap 2 weeks ago. Elizabeth gasped, her heart leaping. She's alive. I must go to her at once. There is more, Strong Eagle continued. She is not alone. She is with soldiers who are searching for captives taken in the raid, including you. Hope and conflict warred within Elizabeth. Her mother was alive and searching for her, the very miracle she had prayed for during her early days of captivity. Yet now, the prospect of leaving filled her with unexpected sadness. You will take me to Fort Belknap? She asked, searching his face. Strong Eagle's jaw tightened. If that is truly what you wish. Of course it's what I wish, Elizabeth said automatically, but her voice lacked conviction. My mother is alive. She's looking for me. And your life here? Strong Eagle asked quietly. The place you have made among my people? Does that mean nothing? Elizabeth turned away, overwhelmed by conflicting emotions. It was never supposed to mean anything. I was a captive, nothing more. Is that all you have been these past months? Strong Eagle moved closer, his voice low and intense. A captive? Is that how you have been treated? No, Elizabeth admitted. Your family has shown me kindness I never expected. Your people have accepted me despite my being an outsider. And what of us, Elizabeth Harmon? Strong Eagle reached for her hand, his touch sending warmth through her veins. What of what has grown between us? Elizabeth looked up into his dark eyes, eyes that had once frightened her, but now held a depth of feeling that took her breath away. "I don't know," she whispered. "I don't understand it myself. You're Comanche. I'm white. Our peoples are at war. Yet here we stand," he said simply. "Two people who have found something unexpected together." He released her hand and stepped back. "I will take you to Fort Belknap tomorrow. The choice to stay or go must be yours alone." That evening, Elizabeth sat alone outside the teepee, watching the stars emerge in the darkening sky. Her belongings, few as they were, had been packed for the journey. By tomorrow night she could be reunited with her mother, returning to the life she had known before the raid. Why then did the prospect fill her with such melancholy? Little Dove approached, sitting quietly beside her. In halting English that Elizabeth had been teaching her, she said, "You go tomorrow?" Elizabeth nodded. "My mother is waiting for me." Little Dove's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "You are sister now, family." The simple statement touched Elizabeth deeply. "Thank you," she managed to say past the lump in her throat. Later, as the camp settled for the night, Strong Eagle found her still sitting alone, contemplating the stars. "My mother says you have a gift for healing," he said, sitting beside her. "She believes the spirits guided you to our people for a reason. Do you believe that?" Elizabeth asked. Strong Eagle considered his answer carefully. "I believe there is purpose in all things, even those that seem cruel or senseless at first." He looked at her. "When I first saw you at that auction, standing defiant despite your fear, I knew you were different, special. Worth more than $2? Elizabeth said, attempting humor to mask her emotional turmoil. Strong Eagle smiled, a rare and transformative expression that always caught her by surprise. "Worth more than all the horses in my herd, though I would not tell the traders that." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the fire's embers glow and fade. "If I stay," Elizabeth finally said, voicing the thought that had been growing in her mind all evening, "what would become of me? Would I always be a captive? An outsider?" "You would be whatever you choose to be," Strong Eagle replied. "My people respect strength and courage. You have shown both." He hesitated, then added softly, "You could be my wife if that is your wish." The unexpected proposal stunned Elizabeth. "Your wife, but I'm white. You are Elizabeth Harmon, a woman of two worlds now." His gaze held hers. "I do not offer this lightly. I have known since the moment I saw you that our paths were meant to cross." Dawn came too quickly. Elizabeth had barely slept, her mind churning with the decision before her. Strong Eagle waited by the horses, his face impassive though his eyes betrayed his inner turmoil. The journey to Fort Belknap would take most of the day. They rode side by side, mostly in silence, each lost in their own thoughts. As they crested a hill and the fort came into view in the distance, Strong Eagle reined in his horse. "We should arrive by midday," he said, his voice carefully neutral. "The soldiers know me. I have traded with them before. They will not harm me." Elizabeth nodded, her throat tight with emotion. "Strong Eagle, He raised a hand to stop her. "You do not need to explain. Family is sacred. Your mother searches for you. It is right that you return to her." They continued down the hill, the fort growing larger with each passing minute. Elizabeth's heart raced as she imagined the reunion with her mother, the return to civilization, to familiar foods and customs, to a world where she was not an outsider. Yet with each hoofbeat bringing her closer to her old life, she found herself looking back, at the open plains where she had learned to ride freely, at the mountains where she had gathered healing plants with morning sky, at the man beside her who had seen her strength when others had seen only a commodity to be sold. A half-mile from the fort, Elizabeth suddenly pulled her horse to a stop. "Elizabeth?" Strong Eagle questioned, concern in his voice. She turned to face him fully, suddenly clear about what she truly wanted. "I can't leave like this. Your mother, I need to see her," Elizabeth agreed. "To know she's safe, to explain my choice to her." Strong Eagle's expression changed, hope brightening his eyes. "Your choice?" Elizabeth urged her horse closer to his. "The woman who stood on that auction platform 3 months ago is not the woman I am now. I've learned the truth about your people, about you." She reached for his hand. "I want to go back to the camp, with you." Strong Eagle's fingers tightened around hers. You are certain? Once you make this choice, I've never been more certain of anything, Elizabeth interrupted. I'll speak with my mother, make sure she knows I am safe and happy. And then we'll return home. The word home hung between them, its meaning transformed. No longer the Boston house of her childhood or the frontier homestead, but the Comanche camp where she had found not just survival, but belonging. Strong Eagle's face broke into a rare, full smile. The Comanche have a saying, the eagle may soar, but it always returns to the mountains of its birth. Elizabeth smiled back, feeling a sense of rightness settling over her. Then I guess I'm an eagle who's found new mountains to call home. Together they rode toward Fort Belknap, not as captor and captive, but as equals. A warrior and a healer who had found in each other something neither had been looking for but both had needed. Understanding, respect, and ultimately, love. Later that day, after a tearful reunion with her mother, who, upon seeing her daughter's transformation and happiness, gave her blessing with reluctant understanding, Elizabeth and Strong Eagle rode back toward the Comanche camp. The setting sun bathed the plains in golden light, and Elizabeth felt a sense of peace she had never known before. You know, she said with a teasing smile, I think you got quite a bargain at that auction. $2 seems a small price to pay for a wife. Strong Eagle laughed, the sound free and joyous across the open prairie. The best trade I ever made, he agreed, reaching across to take her hand, though I would have paid anything to bring you home. And as they rode together toward their shared future, Elizabeth realized that sometimes life's most precious treasures come disguised as our greatest challenges, and that finding where we truly belong is worth more than all the gold in the world.